Hello, and welcome to Madoka Magicast, the podcast devoted to the dark magical girl franchise Puella Magi Madoka Magica, or Magi, or Magi, or Magi.
It's very important to get the pronunciation right. You'll get the fanboys on your back otherwise.
Yeah, I still haven't decided what is correct yet. I think it's supposed to be Maggie based on the katakana.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Technically Magi, but for for Western speakers, I think it's entirely okay to say Magi, because that is a real
exactly.
word in
so,
English.
Off my back. I am your host, Amanda, and on this podcast, I'm usually here with my co-hosts where we talk about what we love and don't love about the Madoka Magica franchise. But today we have a special episode, not technically in the main series of episodes, where we have special guest ErynCerise. Hello, Eryn.
Yay!
Eryn
hello.
has been on the show before. She's been here for previous episodes about the MagiReco anime, and the MagiReco Gacha game, and some other fun episodes like the merch episode and such.
God.
And today we are finally capitulating to listener
ones
demand.
of persons' fervent requests.
I think probably more than one person, but there's just this one guy in the YouTube comments of when we put the show on YouTube as opposed to everywhere else that we upload it, who really wants us to start talking about MagiReco again. So here it is to you, buddy.
Yeah, for the record, that technique is not appreciated when speaking with content
please
creators.
Don't do that. If you want to know why it's taken us more than a year to do this, I can tell you, I wouldn't say that we did that out of spite, but I can tell you that constantly harassing us to get back to MagiReco didn't make us go any faster. So don't, please.
Yeah, and trust me, MagiReco had its own reasons for why we didn't want to get back to it for a while,
and
even
which we'll be talking
of that.
about in this episode. So this is our, I guess, sort of technically our slow move back into talking about MagiReco, because we are kind of winding down on the different story manga, even though we have several more episodes of that left to cover.
Yeah, and as mixed as my thoughts are on the MagiReco anime, I still would like to talk about the rest of it at some point.
And as many of our listeners know, maybe not all of our listeners know, the MagiReco Gacha game on mobile in the past year, not recently technically anymore, but in the past several months, closed in English. Still going in Japan, but it closed. So we do probably need to talk about that before we go back to talking about the anime.
Mm-hmm. We need to have our mobile gacha
This is our airing of our grievances here.
The perfect time of year for it. We're recording this
exactly.
like a few days before Christmas.
So we're burying the MagiReco hatchet. We're burying the oh god, I don't remember any of the characters.
Gather around the Magi pole, everybody, and
we're burying
games.
the Felicia hammer.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't remember any characters that used an axe.
Yeah,
there
must
be
be
at
one.
least
There's
one
so many
in MagiReco that used an axe. Anyway, so here we are. This is our MagiReco Gacha Post-Mortem episode for the English version of the MagiReco Gacha. Before we get into that, hello, Eryn, and welcome back to the show.
It's nice to be here again, as always. I'm glad to be your limited banner MagiCast.
Well, I mean, you're always welcome on the show
host
anytime.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. I mean, for really any other topics too, honestly. But
I joke.
Yeah, we like to have you on for MagiReco because your knowledge of MagiReco far surpasses anyone else's on the hosting table.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am by far the person who is the most sincerely okay with playing gacha games, and that puts me in a unique position.
Do you have any updates for listeners, either Madoka related or otherwise, in terms of life or YouTube channel or anything, before we get started?
Well, obviously I'm not making MagiReco videos anymore.
Yeah.
But I guess if people haven't watched my YouTube channel, there were actually specific circumstances behind why I stopped making MagiReco videos, and this came even well before the game was announced to be ending. Back in the summertime, no, not even the summertime, it was early, like, February. This was in the before times, even. This was around when Ultimate Madoka finally got released on the worldwide server, which,
yeah.
Even leading up to that, the gacha had been bad for me, because I do have compulsive habits, and I do have to watch out for that when I play gacha games. But sometimes even knowing that you have compulsive habits with gacha games is not enough to, like, stop oneself from making terrible decisions. Right. And I had been looking forward to Ultimate Madoka for a while. I had even been thinking I would save up all of my in-game currency for her on the off chance that she would get released early. But I had listened to, like, people who were predicting, like, oh, based on such and such clues, we're pretty sure she actually will be saved for the summer anniversary like she was on the Japanese version. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll be okay to, like, spend my in-game currency on the Christmas gacha, and I spent all of my stuff on Holy Alina, which I made an admittedly pretty fun video about.
Right.
I still like that video. But that meant that was not nearly enough time to save up for when Ultimate Madoka did get dropped in February, 2 months after that. And I was not prepared to not get Ultimate Madoka, and I severely underestimated how not okay I would be about that.
Right.
And spent a legitimately embarrassing and harmful amount of money to get her, and I felt like shit afterwards.
Now, you did get her, though.
I did get her.
Okay.
I got multiple copies
I asked
of
that
her,
because it's going to play into my similar story when we get to me, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I do want to say, I do want to clarify, by the way, I have spent ridiculous amounts of money in gacha games before, and not felt nearly this bad about it. Love Live School Idol Festival is the main example of that. I made Love Live School Idol Festival videos for years. That was what I was mainly known for a long time. This was not my first rodeo, is what I'm saying. But it felt like so much worse for MagiReco for some reason, and I think there's probably a lot of contributing factors to that we'll go through as we go through this post-mortem. Because I think we'll get into this as well when we talk about gacha in general, but, like, I'm generally okay with knowing that I'm not getting anything physical out of a gacha. Like, just the experience of playing the gacha is enough for me, generally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just am like, well, this is like how people play games in casinos. They go in with a set amount of money. They are okay with throwing down the toilet, basically.
Right.
And just having a fun time with it.
Right.
But this was not that. This was unhealthy, and I recognized that about myself. I made a video about it, and I stopped playing gacha games altogether for, like, several months afterwards.
I remember you doing that on your YouTube channel, and by the time you had done that, I had basically already stopped playing. And I'm not saying that because I am, like, smarter than people who play gacha. Like, that has nothing to do with it. I kind of stopped playing MagiReco for pretty much the same reasons, but a little bit earlier because I had already gone through that experience with a different game before, and I saw it coming. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm really interested to hear this story. You've told me a little bit about it, but...
So, before we get into that, why don't we talk about the MagiReco Gacha itself? Because we did one episode about it.
Since we seem to be on that talk.
Yeah,
we
did an episode about it way back, where we talked about the game and kind of the very early story. We talked about the battle system and the graphics. So, if this is the first episode of our MagiReco coverage that you're listening to, this is not technically the first episode of the MagiReco coverage that we've done. The first one that we did was a pre-show that we did about a year ago, titled In the Arms of the Gacha, if you remember that episode. Yeah.
Still a wonderful title.
Yeah, that was in August of 2019. That's on our YouTube and our SoundCloud and everything. You can look that up. And then shortly, a few weeks after that, there was episode 1, which was Too Many Belly Buttons, where we talked about a lot of the character designs. So we did those 2 episodes. A lot of the
visual choices.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about the visual choices and the gameplay and stuff, and early story in those 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. And we were very positive on the game back then. And I was...
Oh, yeah.
I meant that. Like, I really did like the MagiReco game a lot.
Oh, yeah, I still have lots of positives to say about the game. This is not like, this game was shit
No,
and it was always shit.
No, and I think that's part of why so many people were upset when it did shut down. So why don't we get into maybe some of what happened in between doing those episodes and this. So we already talked about, like, how we stopped playing the game. But after we recorded those episodes, some stuff happened, right? The MagiReco TV show started. One of the things that I did was I started spending more money in the app. Like, I remember actually signing up for, like, the monthly thing.
Yeah, I definitely... I'm not as surprised was on that train for a while, too. Maybe I had already at that point,
but I know I didn't do that initially, for sure. And then as I kept playing and enjoying myself, I started doing that. And I was playing it quite a lot, and I was trying to do every single event, and I was really getting into it. I was getting into every event so much that I stopped doing the story. Like, I had not done all of the story stuff when I had stopped playing.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like even though I enjoyed the story, sometimes it did feel like a chore to keep up with the story
so many events,
in between everything else.
The events were time limited. So when I did want to play the game, it made more sense to be doing event stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, this was not like this on the Japanese version. There was time between events on the Japanese version where you could just, like, play the story and catch up on stuff.
So, I was quite enjoying it. The breaking point... Oh, so, I don't know, should we talk about some of the events? Do we want to like, get into that kind of stuff? Or do we want to just get into, like... The slow death kind of stuff.
I think we started talking about the gacha, and events kind of tie into that, because there's always, like, a gacha that goes with an event. I guess, do we want to talk about them from the character perspective, or, like, from the, like, game mechanics
basically,
perspective?
The gachas were focused completely around characters. And, I mean, the events were focused completely around new characters. You know, there were some alternate costume events that we did get, but for the most part, it didn't get that far. We almost, like, at least when I was playing, I remember almost all of the events being almost exclusively them adding new characters and not necessarily it being alternate costumes.
Mm-hmm. The alternate costumes mainly started to pile up towards the end.
And every single one of those characters their events had to also explain the character. So all of those events had, like, story chapters to go through as part of the event.
Yeah, and some of them were pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, some of them were great. Some of them were not. I remember some of them being very bad.
Yeah, I think what's her name? I think Rico stands out as one of the ones I didn't really enjoy, though, like, she was, like, a really tiny girl who had a big lollipop, and her whole event was like a food fever dream, basically. You might not have played that one. It might have been after you stopped playing. I remember seeing her in other story chapters, but not remembering her being introduced. So that might have been an event I missed or something. Possibly. You weren't missing much. I remember both the, like, from a mechanical side and from a story side.
Yeah, a lot of the events were just
kind of tedious.
Tedious is a good word for a lot of the events. Because from what I can remember, a lot of the events were grind this chapter until you collect enough of this item to spend to get to the next chapter. Or, like, grind these other, like, normal content.
Yeah, it's a token gathering event.
Yeah, a token gathering, basically, so that you can do the stuff in the event. Or, like, I feel like there was, like, 3 different types of events. And that they would every event would be one of those 3 different types of events, and that would basically be it.
Yeah, and some of them definitely recurred more often than others, which is probably why I felt like there were less types than there were.
So the tediousness of the events is probably a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think my favorite event types were the tower events, which actually I think were the type that relied the most on the actual game mechanic strategies involved, which you would start with easy stages and then progressively move up to, like, insanely difficult stages.
Yeah,
like a tower.
Yeah, I remember those, and you're right, because those were the ones I remember doing the most, and those always had great rewards too. So you really got rewarded for having a good team and having a good strategy going into these really difficult stages.
And the great twist of those was that, like, you could only use your characters a certain number of times. Like, their HP would carry over between battles, so that, like, once the character was out, they were, like, out until you did some kind of special restore.
The token ones, not a fan of those. Yeah,
that's just a grind fest.
But, like, there was that, and then there was all of these magical girls that they were introducing needed to be set up with stories. So you would be clicking through, these VN type of story cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember being more interested in those earlier on when I was really interested in playing the game. And then as it went on, I was still interested in it, but I can see how maybe other players might have slowly started to trickle away. If it's like, oh, another character I don't recognize and doesn't look like she belongs in the universe because the art style doesn't match.
Yeah, and like you get these hit and miss kind of stories where like, I don't know if this story will be any good or not. Like,
yeah,
even if it is good, sometimes the storytelling is too decompressed to like keep your attention on it.
That's not a great thing that would have necessarily kept people interested. And then, as like I was saying, like there were so many events that I was trying to keep up with events instead of actually getting like invested in what the story of the game itself had to offer, which I think is what made the game such a hit in Japan in the first place, and why people, I don't know really why it's such a big hit in Japan, but is it not because people like the main new cast of 5 characters?
Yeah, like they're all over the marketing in Japan.
I'm guessing that's
I would
why.
hope it is. And like I said, the Japanese fans had time to read that story and get invested in it without also having to constantly keep up with all the event stuff. Which if we hadn't made it clear, the worldwide server basically structured it so it was event after event after event after event with no breathing time in between, and it was like that pretty much from the beginning.
Ahead of the MagiReco anime. And I don't want to get into that too much because, number one, I, again, still haven't finished it. Did you watch all of the MagiReco anime?
I did.
I'm assuming that what I've heard is correct, and it never really picked up in quality.
Yeah, no, it was more or less the same mix of like, oh, this is pretty cool, oh, this is going way too fast, who's that again? That sort of mix of mixed bag of quality.
So, like, the MagiReco in Japan got to just be this new thing they launched to be the next new chapter in Madoka Magica, right? And MagiReco in English was this thing that they launched to market the MagiReco anime. But the MagiReco anime was done in Japan as a cash-in on the Gacha game. So you've got a cheap cash-in on the Gacha game that's really just there to advertise the Gacha game, and is probably being watched by people who already play the Gacha game and already know that story, and isn't really being made to be a good anime in its own right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
you've got that
in the most positive possible light you can describe it in.
Yeah, you've got that.
The thrill of that is seeing the stuff you already like animated in a really pretty way, and maybe having some new flair.
Exactly, you've got that, and then you bring the game that anime is based on to the West, and now you're using that game as the advertisement for the anime, which was supposed to be an advertisement for the game. And you're letting you're rushing everything as much as possible with the game in the hopes that people will be interested in this anime, which wasn't supposed to be the most interesting thing about this whole multimedia thing that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, the game was supposed to be the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
But do you know what I'm saying? How, like, I don't know. It just kind of seems like I'm trying to think of there being like a similar like analogy here.
Oh, there's definitely been like gacha anime that made it over here with like no indication that there would be a gacha like for the West. Like there wouldn't even be a gacha in the West, and
or
then
like
everyone would just be confused.
I'm trying to think if there's like an even more similar. Okay, so like imagine if they made Dragon Ball Evolution, right? And then Dragon Ball Evolution they released it in some country that had never heard of Dragon Ball, and then they used Dragon Ball Evolution as the advertisement for the final premiere of Dragon Ball in that country's language. Now, that's a severe example. I'm not saying that the MagiReco anime or the mobile app was as bad as Dragon Ball Evolution, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah. And counterpoint, there's a really good example of this being done airing right now, and it's the new Love Live Nijigasaki anime, which is technically ostensibly meant to tie in to the Love Live All-Stars mobile game, but that anime is directed in such a way that it is really good on its own, and can be enjoyed by someone who has not played the game.
I have only ever played, what is the boy idol game I've played? What is that game?
The only one I know of that's come out in English is Uta no Prince
That
Sama.
one. I've played that game, which I actually quite liked. And, that game was a rhythm game. Other Love Live games, rhythm games.
Oh yeah,
too.
it was produced by the same studio that did the Love Live rhythm game.
Okay. So I just want to say that I feel like rhythm games are uniquely suited to be gachas.
Yes,
because repeating the same levels over and over and over and over and over again is inherently built into rhythm games.
Yeah, there's a reason I played that game for years.
In a way that it's not for a RPG type of game that MagiReco was. Do you know what I mean?
And that's already something that's a problem in Love Live All-Stars, where there's only so much you can, that's more of an RPG type game, and there's only so much you can build up your team before you're well, I can beat every song now.
In MagiReco, there were so many times where, especially with the token collecting events, where I would just put the game on auto and just leave my phone open.
Yeah.
Because playing the game was completely pointless at that point.
Although to be fair, I also enjoed that to a certain degree, because that's a good option for busy people.
Well, of course, but at least in a rhythm game, you can be practicing a game, a song that you're trying to beat.
And there's something satisfying about that.
Having to play the levels over again is literally a thing you have to do in rhythm games. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's necessary for improving at the skill you have with the game.
Yes. You cannot play a rhythm game and expect to not have to replay levels. It just isn't gonna happen.
So our point is that MagiReco should have been a rhythm game.
My point is that Love Live and maybe Uta no Prince Sama is uniquely designed in such a way that makes it better suited to be a gacha game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if MagiReco necessarily should have been a rhythm game.
No. That was a joke, mainly.
Yeah.
Our point with all that is that the anime and the mobile game did not gel very well from a Western audience perspective.
I saw so many people when the anime was airing, people in the comments of episodes on Crunchyroll, stuff like that, being wow, this is cool, but it's just not as good as the original anime, or wow, when is it gonna get dark? Or, those kind of comments where people were just waiting for it to have that Madoka Magica punch.
Although I do find those comments about Madoka in general to be insufferable. The ones who are clearly just in it for the lolly torture porn.
I mean, yes, but people wwho were just expecting something as the long-awaited
that's more understandable.
Second season of... Because another thing that I was going to bring up is that in Japan, they've had a pretty much, I don't want to say seamless, but a slow, steady stream of Madoka Magica content for the past 10 years, right? And we have not.
Yeah, we get the mangas.
We get a manga release. We have gotten some of the manga releases, not all of them. They have had pachinko games and PSP games and fan-made computer games and They had the stage show. They had, you know what I mean? They've had all this stuff.
Yeah, and now they've had MagiReco going for a solid
they've
few
had
years now.
this cell phone game. And for us, we've had the original anime, we've had the movie, we've had manga releases, which most people have not read. Most people don't even know that most of the mangas exist. Most of the manga series, most of them have not even heard about them because they're not really very high profile mangas. And then after that has been just this.
Yeah, so the perspective for us is a little bit different than it is for the Japanese audiences.
So, I don't know. I think there's probably a lot higher expectations from us on the MagiReco anime, and the fact that it didn't really seem to resonate with people probably didn't bode well for the gacha game.
Yeah, and it's not like people hated the MagiReco anime. They were mostly just underwhelmed by it. I mean, some people hated it, but it wasn't the majority opinion. I mostly got the sense that people were just
yeah, exactly.
Right,
it didn't light the world on fire. I don't think it got the show any more fans than it would have had previously. Mm-hmm. Did anybody get into the series from the MagiReco anime alone who weren't already into the gacha? I know there are people who like the gacha, who haven't really been into the show. I know that there are people like that out there. How many people got into the series from the MagiReco anime alone?
Like into the Madoka franchise?
Yeah, I can't imagine it would have been all that.
Yeah, and which is especially weird considering the story of both the game and the anime are written from the perspective of, like, you don't know the big twist of the franchise yet.
So, hoping that the gacha game helps people get interested in the anime, and hoping that the anime gets people interested in the gacha game when neither of them end up really making that big of a splash doesn't bode well for the gacha game. So it's not really that surprising to me that it did close when it did.
Yeah, and I do want to say, by the way, just to go back to the breakneck pace of events in the game, that the reason a lot of the people who were playing it early on didn't really question that is it is fairly common practice for an English release of a Japanese gacha game to go a little bit faster for the first little while because they want to catch up to where the Japanese version is or close to it. So that's why people were not as critical of that aspect of it in the first several months.
I did not know that. Okay.
It was only after it was sustained for so long and the pace so quick that people started to get really frustrated with it.
I remember when... Okay, so maybe now we can get into this. I remember when I really started to lose interest in the game. There was a series of events leading into December that, towards getting up to Ultimate Madoka, that made me really start to stop caring. I remember one of them was Tart, and I did not get Tart, and that made me upset. But that was back when I was not spending a lot of money yet. So the fact that I did not get Tart wasn't a big deal to me, because I was like, well, I'm not really playing this seriously yet, so, it's fine. I wasn't, I'm not somebody spending a lot of money on it, so it was just, I shouldn't expect to if I'm only going to have so many pulls, But I remember that made me go okay, well then I'll actually start saving up now if I want to, if this situation comes up again and I really want to get a character. Then I forget what it was, but there was another big character in the Christmas,
Was it Holy Mommy or Holy Alina maybe?
It might have been Holy Mommy. I feel like there were 3 characters or 3 events very close together that made me go that I didn't get any of them. And then after that happened, I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to keep playing this anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because by the 3rd event, I was willing to start spending a lot of money. And when I did that and then still didn't get that character, and it had been the 3rd one that I still didn't get, and the game had finally gotten me to open up my wallet and basically give them money for nothing, that is when I said, okay,
yeah,
I'm not gonna play this anymore.
Rates of that gacha in particular are some of the worst in just all of anime gacha games.
The rates were really bad.
Not only was it a 1% rate for the rarest type of units, but they also technically had a pity system or a sparking system or whatever you want to call it, but it was so ludicrously hard to get to the point where you could do that it was only for hyper whales.
Hold on, I'm looking at the events now, because now I'm curious about what it was that made me lose my mind and be like, screw this.
Yeah, I'll bring up that page myself too.
Okay, so started in June.
Oh, it's by here. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wiki page. So the 2 characters in December were Holy Alina and Holy Mommy, and right before that was Mitama, and then what was it before that? There was also another the story Christmas event at the time, not another character gacha, but there was a story that I remember not reading because it seemed boring. Oh, the Nanoha event happened.
Okay, it was before that. Now I'm starting to remember. So in September there was the whole dark event was in September. Then there was the cute little Halloween girl
Karin,
in October,
yes,
who I really liked and I really wanted her. Then the day after was Mitama. And I was like, well, Jesus, if I knew that this was even going to be a potential... And this was the first null magical girl that you could get.
Yeah, I see it there.
And I was like, well, I want a null magical girl. I don't even have one of those yet. I don't even know what they do. So I really wanted her.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, geez, now I'm kind of cranky that I didn't get one of those. So I didn't get her. And then it overlapped by, it looks like, 1 day. But pretty much immediately after the Mitama event was over, it was Holy Mommy. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I remember that being very annoying.
Oh yeah, that was the second Mitama gacha. Yeah, she had 2 in almost the same month, like one at the beginning of the month, one at the end of the month, and then right after
Yeah,
that was
and
Holy
then
Mommy.
shortly after that was bonus tickets for Glasses Homura, which I think I didn't get. Wasn't she something that got given away at the if you pre-registered for the game or something?
You can just get her normally as well. Like, she's just an in-the-shop option. But I think with the bonus ticket thing, that was, like, you can spend money to spend in, like, these special fate weaves and get these special items if you want. That would make her even better.
I think it was something like that, where, because Homura's, my favorite character. So it was, like, all of that stuff happening at once. And then it was like, okay. So it was like 3 or 4 things that I wanted, like, pretty much in succession that made me start going,
There we go. Yeah, it was that the tickets could get you, like, another copy of the Glasses Homura, which would make it easier to, like, get her to 5 stars, or you could get a bunch of special memoria for her.
And from what I recall, it was that period of time, those few months around Christmas and, like, Halloween and stuff, that wore me down. Like, all of those events in succession, one after another, after another, after another, after another, where it was like, forget it.
Yeah, by that point, it was starting to become very clear that the devs were trying to cram as much into a limited amount of time as possible, because again, on the Japanese timeline of the game, when they had their first Christmas event, it was just Holy Mommy. There were no other Christmas things happening that month. It was just that, as far as I know. So there was definitely enough time to, like, both get into that event if you wanted to, and also, again, read the main story, catch up on, like, training up your other units, or do whatever. And you also get a bunch of fun stuff from whatever Christmas giveaways they have around that time. But we got Holy Mommy, Holy Alina, Mitama, like, right before that, all this Glasses Homura stuff, Ultimate Madoka, very, like, a little bit after that, like, 2 months after that, which is not enough time to save up gems if you're not aware.
They had this, I remember this elemental fate weave, which was really good, where you had fate weaves for specific elements if you were trying to get target at a specific girl.
I think I actually spent some Christmas money in that elemental fate weave because I was really low on the forest types.
I remember, I forget who it was, but I was trying to get more of a specific magical girl to try to get her up to 5-star, and I went into that one a few times trying to get her. So So that's what did it for me. So I guess I alluded to this earlier, but around that time, the game started to remind me of another game I had played. So earlier that year, so this was still in 2019, right? Yeah, so this was in Christmas of 2019 and getting into 2020. Around earlier that year, or actually about a year earlier, I had gotten into this clicker game, this mobile clicker game based on Steven Universe, that was not around for very long because it was not very good, but it was good for, like, what it had at the time, as, like, when it launched as, like, a just launched game. It could have been great if they had kept working on it, but for what it eventually was before it closed, not a good game. It was basically a clicker game where you could recruit characters from Steven Universe to be on, like, your team, essentially.
Right.
And the stronger the characters were on your team, the stronger your clicks were, and the stronger you could click through levels and get stuff.
Right. It's a fairly common game design. It's for mobile gacha games.
And it launched in August of 2018. And for people who started the game when it launched, there was an exclusive Pink Diamond character you could get. And at the time, like, I think, if I recall correctly, at the time, the big Pink Diamond reveal on Steven Universe had just happened. If you know which reveal I'm talking about.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. Yep. In season 4. That had just happened, so that was like a hype event.
Yeah, so that makes sense from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah,
for sure.
I didn't get into the game until, like, a little bit after that had happened, so when I started playing, I didn't get the benefit of having that Pink Diamond event. But a lot of the people who played the game when it first started, they got to get Pink Diamond. And it was actually a pretty fun game as far as, just clickers go. If you like clickers, then you probably would have liked it. If you don't like clickers, you probably would not have liked it. If you've played a clicker before, then you know exactly what kind of game it was.
Yeah, it's just one of those games where, like, if you wait long enough, you will win.
As long as you check back in on the app every few hours, you'll and you keep playing, you'll eventually get what you want. The way you got new characters was you opened suitcases that you could buy with premium money that you got little bits of every day, but you could also buy more of with real money.
Might say that they're boxes
you might
of
say
loot,
that.
You might say.
And unlike with like a Steven Universe Gacha or with like a Gacha situation where you have a chance of just getting the character outright, like a 1 in 100 chance, basically. In the suitcases, you might get a shard of a character, instead of a 1 in 100 chance of getting the character, you'd have like a 1 in 20 chance of getting a shard of the character. And then you would have to collect like 10 shards or whatever to actually get the character. So there were incentives in the events for you to do things to get extra shards. You wouldn't have to open so many cases, etc., etc., etc. So basically, the people who got the Pink Diamond event got 10 shards right from the beginning and got to unlock her immediately. And otherwise, you would have to just get really lucky opening cases to get enough shards to get her. Okay, are we on the same page?
Yeah. This sounds like familiar territory.
Yes. So I kept playing it during that fall. There was an event probably once a month where they would highlight his character, or they would introduce a new character from the show. You know, there was a lot of people playing it. You could have little social guilds and do raids. You could, upgrade your characters. It was a pretty fun little game. And then, but as it got closer to November, December, the events went from being monthly to being like one after another every week. And I remember at the time I was on the subreddit, and this was when I was still on Reddit, and I was in the Discord as well. People were kind of like, man, there's so many events that I can't really keep up with this anymore. I wonder what's going on. Like, why are they doing this? I guess it's just leading up to Christmas.
Yeah. Like we said before, fans of a game will come up with justifications for why it's okay for a while.
And, and then it led up to this big Christmas event where it was like a month-long event where it was really easy to get tons of shards. So if there was a character you had been trying to get for months and months, it was now much easier to get specific shards that you were looking for, so that if you were like 2 away from unlocking Garnet, now it was easy for you to get the last 2 you needed to get Garnet in your party or something like that. And including Pink Diamond, which was like this mega exclusive character that only the people, like the early adopters, had been able to get like months earlier. So now they were giving away Pink Diamond. Like, it would be akin to like them giving away Ultimate Madoka.
Right. Like, not even MagiReco did that. Not even in the last throes of its death knell.
Yeah. I mean, you still had to play the game. You still had to grind and like actually do it. But if you did it, you would get Pink Diamond. Now, after the Christmas event, like the end date of the Christmas events happened, all of us, like, there was suddenly like no more news in the news tab. There were no announcements for when the next event was. Like, it kind of went quiet, even though the game was still up and the server was still up. And everybody was like, okay. And then getting into January, the server started to go down a little bit, and then come back up, and then go down. And then the devs weren't saying anything on their Twitter or on the Reddit. Like, total silence. App was still up. You could still buy currency and open suitcases and yada, yada, yada. And then finally in March, they made a Facebook post saying that they had found a new developer for the game and they were working on it. And then nothing. And then the game stayed up on the App Store. You could keep playing it. You could keep spending money on it. And then finally in December of 2019, the game was closed down permanently. Yeah.
That long?
No updates for that entire year. No new characters. No events. You could still be spending money in the game.
Yeah, and that was the part that happened for MagiReco.
Yeah. No bug fixes, nothing for an entire year until the game was finally taken off the store. So when I was sitting there with MagiReco playing it, and it was doing this blitzkrieg of events, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, this feels weirdly familiar to me.
Yeah, and that's definitely, there were people who were saying this beforehand, but a lot more people started to say it when it started happening in MagiReco, that like, this doesn't feel like catching up to the Japanese version anymore. This is just like a hurricane of events.
Like, hand us your money now, please. Give it to us now. And it sounds like I actually forgot how much longer it went on after I stopped playing, looking at the list of events here.
Yeah, like it did go like till I was still playing it up till, well, February, and then I knew that...
Yeah.
Well, actually, I did check in on it after I quit in February, just for a little while, because Nanaka, my favorite character from MagiReco, had her 5-star uncap at some point, and I did want to see the fruits of my labor on that. And I did actually... I think that was also around the time when Ashley Taylor came out, because I do remember pulling in her gacha.
We'll have to talk about Ashley Taylor.
Yeah, but I did quit again not long after that. I think I quit again around, like, just after the Cherry Blossom Dreams gacha, the what's her name, the 10,000 Year Sakura, because I had wanted that card for a while, and I was like, oh, I just happened to get her, which was a nice way to be like, okay, now I'm done with MagiReco, bye. Now looking over this timeline of the event banners on the Wikipedia, or not the Wikipedia, the fan wiki, now I remember it was, I think, April that I had actually quit, because I sat with my feeling shittiness after Ultimate Madoka for like 2 months before admitting that it was a bad time. So I quit then. I came back briefly in May for Nanaka, stayed on for a little while, on and off, like very on and off. I definitely skipped a few events in between there. Not scouted, that's the Love Live terminology. I pulled in Ashley's gacha and the Eternal Sakura gacha. I didn't get Ashley, but I did get the Eternal Sakura. I was happy with Eternal Sakura, and I was like, okay, now I'm done. And then after that, a few months after that, they announced the game would be ending, so it's like, well,
which one
I
is
guess
Eternal
my timing
Sakura?
was good. If you...
What date was that?
That was end of June. It's the one right under Ui Tamaki on the page.
Oh, this is just a different...
Yeah, she's a character who shows up pretty late in the main story.
Oh, she's very cute.
Yeah, she's really pretty.
Right.
Like, that's why I wanted her.
I like her little devil horns.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't really explain who she is because it's super
That's
spoiler.
okay, you don't have to tell me. Seriously. But she's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped playing. It sounds like I got lucky. What I was saying was, it sounds like I got lucky because the game went on way longer than I initially remembered it going on, because I was going to say I felt like that reminding me of the other game was like a sign that it was the game was not doing well, but it seemed to go on for almost 8 months or so. No,
beyond that.
Yeah, beyond that. So,
which is longer than some
knows?
Gacha games go. I'll give it that. Like some Gacha games just land here and then fizzle almost immediately.
But you know what? When the game got announced as ending, I wasn't upset, because
by that point I wasn't either.
A year earlier or so. So, and I'm not saying that if the game ending made you upset, I'm not saying that you are wrong to be upset.
Yeah, because like we said before, like there were like good things about the game. Like, I know we haven't said a lot of them, like, in this part of what we're talking about, but there is good game.
There was a great game
there.
In there. And, but, like, if you were upset, like, maybe this could be a good lesson.
This will be your first lesson in gacha heartbreak.
And I really I mean that in the least patronizing way possible, even though I know that it's very patronizing, so I'm sorry. But, gacha games are bad. There's a reason that they're bad, and that so many people think that they're bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and even me, who is like the most soft on gacha games of anybody on this podcast, even I have no problem saying like gachas are bad. It's like I said, I very deliberately compare gacha games to like real life casinos, and a lot of people rightly call casinos bad and still go to them because they know what they're in for.
If you know what you're doing, it's not bad.
Or like, to make an even worse comparison, it's like smoking that you know is bad for you and you do it anyway.
Here's what I will say. If you are upset that the game ended and closed, you're not bad for doing that. If you're upset that the game ended and closed and you felt entitled for the game to not close, and that they had an obligation to not close the game, or to let you move your account over to the Japanese server, or to basically do anything for you, I'm not saying you were bad to feel that way, but I might tell you that you were not being realistic, because when you play gacha, you are playing for the fun of doing it only. You are not getting anything in return.
Exactly.
You get nothing in return. Even when you win, you're not winning anything that you own. Like, you don't actually get anything.
Yeah, what you're playing for is a license to display certain pixels on your screen for as long as the game's servers are active. that is what you were paying for. You need to be 1,000% okay that that is what you were paying for. If the game does go down, your license goes away because the game that it's licensed for is gone. And if that's a deal breaker for you,
if putting it
gotcha.
that way makes it sound ridiculous to you and like maybe it's not worth it, then maybe you should be playing gacha. Now, if you say to yourself, well, that's okay because I have fun playing the gacha and it's not necessarily about the pixels. It's because I think the game is fun and I like the characters and I like the franchise. Well, that's different. Then,
exactly.
Then you're Eryn having fun with Love Live.
Yeah,
you know
I was about to bring it back to Love Live.
Yeah.
Like, talking about School Idol Festival again, like, that game is technically still going and actually technically still fairly popular, but certainly less so now that the successor game, All Stars, is out. For me, Love Live School Idol Festival, even though I played it for years and spent who knows how much money on the gacha in that game, I did stop playing it once All Stars came out, and now I effectively have this account of, like, who knows how much money I spent on it, of characters I'm not going to see again because I don't have the app anymore, and I don't intend to get the app again. And I'm weirdly okay with that because I had a wonderful time playing that game. I had a wonderful time with the cards while I was using them, and I knew from the start, like, this is a limited time license, and
exactly.
That's all it is.
So,
But it felt worse in MagiReco because, like, I felt even more pressured to spend even more money than I healthily should have, just due to the structure and pace of the game.
Yeah, MagiReco was just very... I don't know what it was about MagiReco that made it feel worse. Yeah.
I think the rates of the gacha is certainly a big part of it for me, just because it is so much harder to get the card that you're actually looking for, even if you do spend a ridiculous amount of money on it. I don't know, that kind of is I know that's a relatively simple explanation, but that's part of it for me.
I mean, I've never played Love Live, so...
Which is weird, because Love Live School Idol Festival, the original, also had a 1% rate for its most rare cards, but, like, I think the percentage of how much you would... what's the best way to put this? Within that 1%, the percentage of getting the card that you actually wanted from the featured box was actually pretty good, where it was not for MagiReco.
Because MagiReco also had, like, memories and other featured girls in the event. Is, like, that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is, like, both of them had a 1% ultra rare rate. But for Love Live, the rate of getting the featured card was, like, I think, like, 60% or something like that. You were more likely to get the featured card than not. Whereas the percentage, like, the rate up percentage for MagiReco, I can't remember what it was, but it was much worse,
it certainly it didn't feel like 60% for me, because I would have had every event girl if that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that the poll percentages were a big problem for a lot of people. The events.
Yeah, that's honestly a problem with the Love Live All-Stars gacha. Like, it has a higher ultra rare percentage, but a much worse.
I wonder if it just isn't
rate
like
up.
A more devoted fan base too, who's just more willing to play the game. Because as like I mentioned earlier, it's been 10 years since.
Oh yeah, like the fevered pitch of the Love Live fandom certainly helped during the years that School Idol Festival was
and like
the most
6
popular.
or 7 years since the Rebellion anime.
Yeah, I will say for School Idol Festival, though, there was a period where they were speeding up events to catch up more with the Japanese version, but it was relatively reasonable. It only lasted a couple months, like a few months or something like that, and then they went back to the pace that it was at before, and overall it was just a much better paced release of events. Do you think that, like...
I remember what I wanted to tie this into. So... If you're someone who is sad that you have spent a bunch of money in MagiReco and have nothing to show for it, I have a suggestion for you. Why don't you try playing the Pokemon card game, or Magic the Gathering, or literally any kind of physical game that has, like, booster packs? Because...
Yeah, like, it's still not great. It's the same predatory game mechanic, but at least you have something.
This comes up when people complain about loot boxes or surprise mechanics, if you want to use, like, the marketing term in the video game industry. This comes up of, well, loot boxes aren't any different from when you used to buy baseball cards when you were a kid, and you had fun doing that, right? So how can you take loot boxes away from FIFA 2020 and make little kids not have fun with loot boxes in their sports games, And to that, it's like, you are kind of right, but the difference is first that there is, I think, psychologically something different about taking out your wallet in a store, counting out $7 of cash from your wallet and handing it over for a tiny little 2.5-inch by, whatever it is, 4-inch pack of 10 cards. And the psychological impact in your brain of knowing how much money you just handed over and what you're getting in return for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, there's also like the sensation itself of like having that pack in your hand and like opening the wrapping and like going through the cards one by one in your hand.
Exactly.
Knowing that they're yours.
So not only do you have a better appreciation of like what you're getting for your money and how much money you're spending and how much you're buying because you have to carry all this shit home with you.
Yeah. And that's why I stopped caring about the Pokemon card game, honestly, because I got to a point where like I don't want to store all these cards anymore.
Like eventually, like when you open them, it is like so much more fun to actually open like physical packs of cards and hold them in your hands. And like, I don't know, there's a reason that opening Pokemon cards has exploded in the last few months on Twitch.tv. Like in a ridiculous way.
Yeah,
I don't know if
card pull pack videos have been popular on YouTube for a while. And
well,
it's
on Twitch, I bought a $1,000 unopened box of first edition black and white booster packs that are 15 years old or whatever. Let's open them live on stream. And they're opening this extremely expensive unopened booster box of Pokemon cards on like live that like nobody would ever normally be opening this booster box because it's a collector's item, but they're doing it on stream like for viewers. Like that kind of stuff has massively exploded on Twitch in the past like 6 months. And the only reason I know this is because I follow Pokemon streamers, but that was not normally a thing like a few years ago. And it's because it's fun to like open packs and stuff. And it's the same kind of idea as like doing pulls in gacha games. But I do think that there's a difference when it's like something physical in your hand. And like
it is preying on people's like conflation of like pulling a digital item and not fully thinking about the fact that it's not like something they will be able to keep in the long run.
Because that's actually perfect, because that's what I was going to bring up. Like if that company goes out of business, like your cards don't magically disappear into the ether. Like you have them forever. So like all of my original Pokemon cards that I had from middle school, and probably a lot of older people who are listening to this right now can also say this, I still have all of those cards. And some of those cards are worth hundreds of dollars, and I still have all of them, and they're sitting in a book right now. And I'm not going to sell them anytime soon.
Yeah, like I played the last physical card game I got into was Weiss Schwarz, and I still have binders full of that sitting around with a lot of really expensive holofoil cards. If you like anime
and you need a physical card game that's like because isn't Weiss Schwarz like a big like
Yeah, guess what? Weiss Schwarz has Madoka cards.
Yes, exactly. Yes, if you need a really good thing that you can get into if you're feeling burned by gacha games is a game like that. Or
you just have to not play Weiss Schwarz with anyone who's really into Weiss Schwarz.
Let's be honest here. If you're actually playing it, the best thing for you to do is just buy the cards you need and not actually open packs.
Yeah, like I don't know. Let's just say I'm a little jaded by my experiences playing with people who are like hardcore into Weiss Schwarz.
Wasn't there also another like big anime card game?
Oh, definitely.
Was it Force of Will?
I think so.
That had like tons of. Maybe I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that sounds
maybe
familiar.
Force of Will was not. Anyway, I think Force of Will was something. I don't know.
It does sound familiar, so it's probably something.
So. Anyway, yes. So you can do that. You can get into like a physical card game and kind of have the same kind of fun with it if you're into collecting and stuff like that. And I still collect and play the Pokemon card game like to this day, and I have a lot of fun doing that. And to be honest with you, I probably spend about as much money as I would play on a gacha game at my worst. Like, because I try not to spend a lot of money on gacha games. Because I don't like them, and I prefer to spend my money on other types of collecting. So, at my worst, I might spend as much on gachas as I do currently right now on Pokemon cards. And just the fact that I actually get physical items for the money I'm spending just makes it feel like so much more worth it to me personally. That even if someday I decide I hate Pokemon, I don't like Pokemon anymore, I still have all this stuff here.
Yeah, I still have like a box of Pokemon cards hanging around that I could go look at if I want to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, no one can take those cards away from me.
This also kind of ties into a wider debate about digital media, and there's also similar arguments for like why you shouldn't buy like movies or TV shows digitally, because like if the company goes under, you don't own those. Yeah, like
remember when
anymore.
Steam used to sell anime and movies? I don't think they do anymore.
Remember Ultraviolet? Yeah. That was
remember UMV movies that you could play on the PS Vita? I mean, at least with UMV discs, technically, if you still have a Vita, you can still play them. But like Steam, literally, like I think Steam used to sell movies and anime and stuff, and they don't do that anymore. So if you had bought an anime series on Steam,
God, like video gaming in general is a fragile industry just because it's so reliant on digital sales.
Exactly,
and it's hard. And there are lots of conversations out there about like the preservation of games being so difficult because so much of it just disappears into the ether after several years.
It does really suck that the MagiReco game got taken down. I would have been great for it to keep going, just for us to keep being able to play the story.
Yeah, I still haven't read much about Arc 2 of the story. I know a little bit about it, but not a ton.
In hindsight, I didn't even get to play that much of it because I was trying to keep up with events, which is, in hindsight, so really, like, kind of frustrating and very stupid.
I didn't get to actually finish the main story of Arc 1. I know what happens in it because I've read the spoilers, but I think I read up to, like, maybe the second or third last actual big chapter of the game.
Our only option is to basically watch YouTube videos going forward.
Which, thank goodness for those YouTube videos. I have watched some of those for certain characters' side stories that I couldn't pull into Gacha.
So it does suck. It really does. It would have been nice for English-speaking fans to still have access to MagiReco. I wish it hadn't shut down, but at the same time, it was a cash grab. Like, I can say with a considerable amount of confidence that the only reason we got it was for cash grab purposes, and that unless the game had done really, really well, it was probably going to get shut down anyway, eventually.
Yeah, and one of the worst things about it that I just remembered now is that the game is made by F4 Samurai, who also makes Fate Go, and makes approximately every dollar, like, so much money from Fate Go, that they could afford to put out MagiReco whether it succeeded or failed.
That's not what they're gonna do. That's not how.
No, that's what I mean. Like,
works, Eryn.
I know that's what I mean is like it didn't matter whether the game succeeded or failed. They were gonna do this anyway.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes, like this wasn't like we're gonna have to fire our employees unless we shut down MagiReco. It wasn't one of those situations.
They made the game to cash in on the anime. Once the anime was done, they kept it around just a little while longer, and then they're like, okay, there's no financial reason why we're gonna keep this game afloat
still doing
anymore.
well in Japan, so we'll just keep it going in Japan. See you later, Westerners. Thanks for your money for a year and a half. Yeah. So, I don't know. Do we have any final thoughts on MagiReco?
I did mention Ashley Taylor earlier, and I just want to reiterate that I do feel really bad for both Ashley and her voice actress Sally Amaki. And I really hope she gets brought back in the Japanese version eventually, since she was an English version exclusive character.
Would you like to tell me, and therefore the listeners, a little bit more about her? Because I know that she was an English exclusive character, but that's about as much, other than knowing also what she looks like, this is about as much as what I know about her.
Yeah, obviously she doesn't affect the story that much because she can't, the way that she's designed.
Right.
But she was just like a really cute character. She was basically like a weeb, like an American girl who came to Japan to participate in weeb culture, which made it extra funny that she was by far the most powerful character in the game, the only character who surpassed the 3-disc limit of the way the game works. You have the different types of discs for different types of attacks, and normally a character can't have more than 3 of the same type. And not only did she get 4 of the same type, but it was 4 of the most powerful type of disc, making her a hecking broken character that anyone who wanted to play the competitive scene needed to have.
Right.
And she was so powerful but all she had was like a teddy bear. Like, and that's somehow enough to beat like Ultimate Madoka
weapon.
or Tart or like all these other like crazy powerful characters. It was really, really kind of great.
I'm looking at her design right now, and it's basically just like a goth weeb kimono.
Exactly.
With like goth ruffles on it, and then she fights with like a teddy bear, and then like these little floating teddy bear heads around her.
Yeah, and she was really sweet. Like, I didn't get to read her character story, so I don't know a ton about like the in-depth part of her story. I think there's a little more going on emotionally for her than like people know about. But I did read the character story that everybody got to read when she got released, which was like they would release a small like chunk of that every day during her release period or leading up to it or something. And it was just a story about her like working with a bunch of the MagiReco characters to gather like pieces of clothing to make this like basically like an Iron Chef fashion competition to make this really cool outfit. And it was just a really cute and sweet little story.
She does look very cute. Her doppel looks cool.
Yeah. And again, she's voiced by Sally Amaki, who a lot of the English Seiyu sphere are a fan of, just because she is in the rare position of being an idol in the Japanese idol industry who speaks fluent English and can actually comment on what it's like to be in that industry.
Good for her, then.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So her voice actor was also like a person of note then.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people wanted Ashley specifically because they were Sally Amaki fans.
Oh, that's too bad then.
Yeah, and she did give a really cute performance, and that's again why I hope she at least gets brought to the Japanese version eventually so that Japanese fans can experience that too. I know a lot of Japanese fans I heard from were really bummed that they couldn't get her.
I'm looking at her transformation video now. Mm-hmm. She's very cute. Mm-hmm. She's definitely a weeb though.
She's so weeb.
She's a weeb just in her transformation video. She's being a weeb. Just knowing that that's what she is, it makes it 100 times more weeb. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll get her in the Japanese server eventually. Just for the amount of money they'll make.
Oh, definitely. They'll wait just long enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. What else can you say about MagiReco Gacha? R.A.P.
Yeah.
Should we say anything about how silly it is that they had gallery mode for like a month before they took it down?
I didn't get to participate in that because again, I think I lost my transfer code, so I couldn't get back into my account after I finally deleted it again in the summer. So I didn't get to look at that. But
for those of you who do not know what I mean, and if you know anything more about this and you want to add in Eryn or correct me, please do. But basically, when they were going to shut down, when they announced that they were shutting down MagiReco, everybody got pissed. And then, in response to everybody getting pissed, they came out and said, "Oh, we hear you. And in consideration of how upset everyone is, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the servers up for another month. But we're not going to let you play the game. We're just going to let you be able to look at your magical girls that you got." And just be able to look at them.
Look on your works, you
You'll
might
be able to open up the app and check out all your hard work for a full month right before it all goes away. To the best of my knowledge, that's what it was. I don't think you got to do anything else.
Yeah, at least in like other gacha games, when they announce that they're shutting down, a lot of games will be like, "Hey, we're shutting down, party time, free pulls for everybody."
Yeah,
nobody has to spend
free
anything.
pulls, all pulls, 0 gems. Go for it.
Yeah.
Pull.
It's
as much
just
as
like
you want.
an apocalypse
Yeah,
blowout
and they didn't
party.
even do that. To my knowledge, I don't think they did.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
I think the most I see on the events page is that like they had a daily free 10 pull in like the week leading up to the end of the server.
A daily free 10 pull for a game that's going to be going offline in a week.
And it looks like it was during the gallery mode month too.
Wouldn't it be horrible to get like the one girl you wanted for a year and a half that you never got during?
And you get to just look at her. God, that's like the worst torture for a gacha player. Oh my god. They also, it looks like they had a final mirrors ranking round in like the last month before gallery mode took over.
I guess
like,
it's kind of
great,
cool
that's
if you're really into mirrors as like a last hurrah if you like were really into the multiplayer.
And to be fair, I was really
so
into
that might have
mirrors.
been worth it
mirrors.
for those folks. Not for me.
Yeah, it just feels like so like a kick in the pants. Like, congratulations, you won.
All your magical girls
now we're
are
gonna
dead.
kill your game.
Like
being Maguka is suffering and all that.
And like the each alternate reality that each person's little game existed in, all those girls are dead now. Each person's
There's a
file.
great comic that came out. I can't remember if it was a fan comic or not. It might have been a fan comic about the end of the English server and like how all the like magical girls were gathering up everything so they could like escape the incoming like apocalypse fires, and then the final panel is just like Ashley Taylor sitting alone in the fire smiling.
It's okay. Madoka will save you because she saves everyone, because that's what she does. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Rest in pieces, MagiReco. Rest in pepperoni.
We loved you, and we're not sad that you're gone.
I'm not really that sad that you're gone. I'm sad that other people are sad that you're gone.
I am, yeah. I'm sad for the people that you disappointed.
My advice to people who are sad is to play the Pokemon card game.
Yeah, or Vice Schwartz if you really need
If you want to add me on the Pokemon card game online app, send me a DM on Twitter and I'll give you my username and we can play. It's really easy to get online codes for the Pokemon online app because a lot of the people who just play the card game and not the online app just throw out their online codes. So it's actually really easy to get them very cheap. Yeah.
How nice.
There's my dog going after the ball. She's so cute. Anyway, thank you so much, Eryn, for coming on down to talk about the trash fire that was MagiReco.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun to just like vent for a while.
I hope it was cathartic for some of our listeners too, because not just that one guy, but a lot of other people too were very upset when
even that one guy. Like, I'm sorry
even
you
that one guy
died. Guy.
Yeah.
I hope you're happy playing the Japanese version. And
if people, for those of you who did go to play the Japanese version, like, I hope that you're still having fun with that. And it does kind of suck that we can't. You're playing a version now that you can't fully understand, but we do at least have those YouTube videos. So well, it's better than nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, that will be it for us today. If you would like to follow the podcast on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, your social media platform of choice, look us up at Madoka Magicast on that site. Wherever we are, if we're on that site, we will be Madoka Magicast. So find us all over the interwebs. Eryn, where might the listeners be able to find you on the internet if they wish to find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at ErynCerise. That's ErynCerise. You can also find me on YouTube under that name. If you want to experience a something with magical girls that you don't have to pay any money to experience, you could listen to my podcast, Super Idols RPG.
Yes,
you can find it superidolsrpg.wordpress.com. We've been doing some of our best work recently.
If you want to find me on Twitter, you can do so at Lambda, like the Greek letter, LAMBDA Power, Lambda Power. And my art account is Oddlazdo, ODDLAZDO. And that's about it. If you want to find the other hosts who are not on this episode right now, but I guess if you want to find them anyway, they're online at otori.nu. Ooh. If only Yasha was here, she would make a joke about how NU does not stand for naked. I think she takes more pleasure of informing people that NU could stand for naked than she actually has concern of people potentially mistaking NU for meaning naked.
Oh my god.
Anyway, thank you for listening, everybody.
Yes, thank you very much.
We'll see you next time.
Whatever time of day it is.
And we'll have Eryn back on again when we eventually get back to MagiReco. Don't worry. Yay! All right, bye, friends.
Bye.